This is breaking news on CBS News Minnesota.
I'm Jeff Wagner, standing outside the Wright County Courthouse where Gregory Ulrich has been found guilty of all counts related to the deadly shooting at the Allina Clinic in 2021, including first-degree premeditated murder, which we've just learned carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. He was stoic as the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, including first-degree attempted murder against 4 more victims. Meanwhile, those victims and their friends and other staff members from the Allina Clinic were sitting there, some shedding tears, some already hugging, and then afterwards, when everything wrapped up, standing outside here with the county prosecutor, again feeling a large sense of relief. The prosecutor calling this an easy case because of the amount of evidence, but difficult when you understand what happened to the emotional toll of everybody in the Buffalo community.
February 9th, 2021, Gregory Paul Ulrich brought an unthinkable level of terror when he had a deadly attack at the Allina Clinic. Just now, after a 3-week trial, he was convicted of all 11 counts. The most serious count, first-degree premeditated intentional murder for killing Lindsay Overby. He was also convicted of first-degree premeditated attempted murder for the 4 other victims that he shot. He was also convicted of detonating explosive devices in the clinic and some lesser-included offenses. The sentence for first-degree premeditated murder carries a mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. He'll be sentenced June 17th at 1:30. That was the only acceptable sentence in the state's view for the horrific crime that he committed and the way that he shattered so many lives. Lindsay Overby went to work on February 9th, 2021 to help people. She was a nurse. She has 2 children, Gavin and Ava. She went to work and she didn't come home. She didn't come home because the defendant shot and killed her. All of these nurses were innocent, defenseless victims who didn't deserve to be attacked by the defendant. I asked the people who were at the Allina Clinic today to come down and stand behind me because this case is about them. It's not about me. This case, like I said, brought a level of terror that was unspeakable to all the people at the Allina Clinic that day, to the whole community of Buffalo, and the verdict that this fine jury handed down holds Gregory Ulrich accountable for the horrific crime that he committed and imposes a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole, which is the only acceptable result for this case. It won't bring Lindsay Overby back, but it brings a sense of justice to what happened to her. It won't take away the fear that these victims still experience, but again, it brings a level of justice in holding this defendant accountable for what he did. Andrea Worm was in the clinic that day with her 2-month-old baby for a checkup. And after the defendant shot 2 people behind the counter, you can see on the surveillance video, she's hovering above her infant car carrier. And when I saw that in the surveillance video, I asked her, what was she doing there? And she said, I absolutely would have taken a bullet for her daughter. There was, Tony McAlpine was a patient in the clinic that day who had the misfortune of being a patient the same day this defendant began his attack. He came out of the safety of his exam room and went to seek help for Sherry Curtis, who was shot, and for Lindsay Overby as she lay dying in that hallway. Just extreme bravery. Jessica Stageberg, who's here, I won't put her on the spot, but if she wants to talk, she can. She recognized immediately what was happening, and she assumed a leadership role, telling people to run and hide. And people were so effective in how they sheltered in place or ran from the clinic, there could have been many more victims. He was yelling out, "Help me," in a disguised voice, trying to lure medical providers out of hiding. He had a bag full of ammunition in his pocket. He had 2 more magazines. He was trying to kill more people. People, by effectively sheltering in place, they prevented this from being a worse tragedy. There was Kathleen Kurth, an elderly patient who was there just seconds before the defendant. And when he pulled out that gun and started shooting, she went over and hid in a coffee nook area, and she was still in the lobby of the clinic when he was detonating these bombs. and you can see her on the surveillance video as quickly as she could, walking out of that clinic. Jennifer Gibson, who was friends with Lindsay Overby, she got shot in the leg as she's running out that side door. The same side door Lindsay Overby tried to escape but was unsuccessful because she was shot and killed by the defendant. She saw her friend through the glass window, saw her.
Community. We'll have much more on today's verdict tonight at 10 on WCCO. For now, I'm Jeff Wagner in Wright County for CBS News, Minnesota.
Keep watching CBS News Minnesota for continuing coverage.